Hey all, welcome to Voices of Data Protection. I'm your host Bhavanesh Rangarajan and I'm a Principal Program Manager at Microsoft. This series will feature the leaders, program managers from Microsoft, and experts from the industry to share details about the latest solution and processes to help you manage your data, keep it safe, and stay compliant. In this episode, I talk with John Cardarelli. Let's get started. Hey all, welcome to this episode of Voices of Data Protection. Today we have John Cardarelli with us. So John works for Microsoft IT, and I've known John for a few years now. We both have a lot to do in the compliance workspace. So John, welcome to this conversation.
Thanks, Bobby.
So John, why don't you just go ahead and explain about your role or your charter at Microsoft IT and what you do there with respect to compliance?
Sure. So my role at Microsoft is the architect of the information protection program. My main role is to work with the product group, providing features and solutions to information protection problems that we have here at Microsoft, which in turn, hopefully are the same issues that our customers face, so we can help build those products.
And you do call yourself the customer zero, right?
Yes, we are customer zero, which is fun because we get to play with all the latest and greatest stuff.
So basically eating your own food, the way in which I see it.
We are a first party company, right? So we no longer have DLP solutions from third parties anymore. We're strictly first party, so we use our own stuff.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that actually brings us to this interesting question. I mean, knowing that you are the DLP/information protection architect for Microsoft IT, how has your journey been as customer zero in implementing these solutions? I'm pretty sure it did not happen overnight. So probably you've had years to play around with these tools, and you're going to go back and forth with the product team. So why don't you share some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I mean, really, our journey to information protection really started 4 or 5 years ago, and Microsoft bought Secure Islands, which became AIP. That's when we really hit the ground running in our information protection policies. Previous to that, we had third-party products that were kind of in one particular environment and another one, and it was really hard to really have a overarching view of all our stuff, right? And now we're actually getting there. So all the crown jewels and the really sensitive data. Prior to this, we were relying on employees to properly label things manually. Manually, I mean by actually typing in the word Microsoft Confidential or the old labeling system that we had. So from that aspect, it's been really fun to see the maturity of our program move along with the product. So the journey's been fun. Implementing it is easier in some regards and more difficult in others, right? But it's been a fun way to really protect Microsoft and the information by using our products and then providing that feedback on where they were lacking at one point, and then coming up with workarounds and solutions until the product actually provided that feature set. So it's been really fun.
That's awesome. John, let's look at the user base for Microsoft. How many users do you protect using your compliance tool sets at Microsoft?
200 plus thousand, right? So it's the entire enterprise. So whether it's North America, Europe, Asia, we are everywhere. It's a very small team of about 10 people that includes DLP, phishing, BitLocker, AIP scanner, and then soon Power BI.
Wow, 10-member team protecting 200,000 people. So you better have the solution right there. Otherwise, you're not going to scale.
Yes, you need this. Yes, and there's always a scale issue, and because of the number of employees, it's a lot of data too. It's petabytes of data that we're trying to sift through, right? So we need an automated way of doing some of these things, right? Where you can't get away from full automation and information protection just because of the way pattern matching is. Eventually, maybe with machine learning, trainable classifiers, things like that. But you still need a human interaction. Doing things automatically sometimes, at least with our user base, those automated emails tend to go ignored or just lost in the shuffle of everyday's work, right? So there's a combination, right? But what we are hopeful for is a platform that we can use to do that remediation, that compliance reporting, all from one spot.
So, John, what I'd like to do is kind of deep dive into those specific areas today so that you can provide some sort of an insight to people who are listening to this conversation. So, given that you have 200,000 users in Microsoft to protect, and it's your team who are doing that job, taking the bull by the horns, could you talk to us about various workloads that you cover? My understanding is you have Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and then Power BI, as you said, in future. I want to hear from you on what are the things which you think as strategies, okay, setting up a DLP policy to cover such and such information or auto labeling to do such and such things. So why don't you give us a high level strategic roadmap on how Microsoft protects its data sets?
Sure. And we've gone through many renditions of this, right? Trying to tackle the situation multiple different ways. Our current view, which I believe is pretty good, and our philosophy is to push the risk and the compliance back to the business units. Because we're such a small team and such a large organization, we have to rely on people within those organizations, those business units, to help us with what is really sensitive, right? And how can we get visibility into the organization as information protection being important to the company. So what we did is we spun up a grassroots effort with data stewards. So Microsoft, because we're such a big company, there's a lot of roles around, right? And one of them is a data steward within the particular business unit or in the organization. And it's not their only job, but they're tagged by their senior leadership as, being the person to be the data steward, to make sure people label things correctly, teach them how to label things and what should be labeled, right? Because, we work with a bunch of different data. Some is sensitive, some is not. And so their primary role is to make sure that the organization is in compliance with IT policy or Microsoft policy. And not only that, but what's really nice is because we're in IT, people ignore us. So having somebody within the org that people kind of know, or they can look up and go, oh, this is my data steward for the financial group, for example. Well, it gives us a little bit more teeth to go in and make sure that people are properly labeling, protecting, and storing data. So we do that. That has helped us get inroads into the various organizations around. So now we start to actually discover where all our other sensitive data that we have to protect is, right? And so that allows us to gain visibility and then to put that secure collaboration blanket over everything.
So for a customer who's basically starting on this journey, right, John? So what will your recommendation be on using the existing Microsoft tool sets? Where do you want them to begin their journey? Assuming that they have Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive, how do they begin this journey?
I think it's relatively easy, relatively being the operative word here. It's a baby step. It's first know where your sensitive data is, and that comes along with discovery. So you can create a DLP policy for SharePoint and OneDrive and Exchange, a combination of all three or one at a time, and discover how people are using sensitive data. Where is this sensitive data and what is it? There's this, I believe, a misconception on false positives. False positives can be very bad, but they can also tell you what else you need to look for that you might not have thought about, right? So it's the discovery phase first. Set up a policy, use Content Explorer, see what sensitive data is out there in your particular organization and start with that. And then start to go into the remediation part of it, right? So first you discover, then you remediate, and it's a manual remediation, right? Where you're actually reaching out to the particular end user or a site owner. We started with manually reaching out to end users, and that got really burdensome really quick when you think about 200,000 people. And so we decided to try to get more bang for our buck by going after the site owner and asking the site owner to help us either remediate, delete findings files that no longer need to be there because they're 10 years old. And then we asked them to do an access control review to make sure that it's only the people that need to have access to it, right? So there's that. We have this concept of access controls and then label and protection, right? Labeling and then encryption. So it's a combination of that make you compliant with a particular policy, right? It's, can you control the access? If you got that, that's really good. Can you control that content? And if you can label it, you should label it. And if you can protect it, you should protect it then if it needs that protection. There are certain file types that you just can't put a label or encryption on, like a text file, for example. But that doesn't mean it's not safe, right? It's because it's in a locked down SharePoint site that nobody can get to except for example, 100 people. That's a bit more safe than having it open to everybody, right? So we have that kind of concept. So once we, and then we can remediate a lot of files that way. Site owners want to be able to go back and actually, automatically label the files, and we want them to do it too, but tooling is quite not there yet for that. But there are workarounds. A site owner could really download the site to a local drive and do the right click and classify and protect, and then just auto label that and then upload it back. But it could be, terabytes of data on a SharePoint site, which we have run into, or automation stuff that people are doing there. So having a way to be able just to go, okay, I can take care of that for you is awesome. We'll just go back and classify everything and it's all done. Those are some of the things that we do to get people back into compliance and get our numbers up to make sure that everything is protected. So it's a combination, discovery, baby steps, right? And then the remediation, and then you can start to be a bit more draconian once you understand how people actually use data, right? So you could do a block and allow override, and that's in SharePoint and OneDrive. You can do a lot of recommendations too. The beauty that I see in Microsoft's feature set is that for me, it's like the information protection is being built into the fabric of all our products in Azure to Windows and all that, which is awesome, right? Because then you don't have to worry about backwards compatibility and all that kind of stuff. But one of the big important things is that user education and awareness ability that we have with our products. Setting up a policy tip, sending an email. These are awesome things because as a regular employee, we want them to do their job and do the job safe and accurately, but we don't want them to have to always think about, security and everything. We should set up the guardrails for them and then give them that user signaling, what I call user signaling, which is, like a policy tip or, like a spell check type of experience to go, okay, this is all my sensitive data in this particular file. Help me remediate it, right? So user education and awareness is just, for us, it's awesome because it's our first step into an employee going, hey, it looks like you're working on sensitive content. You might want to label it as this, or just automatically do it for them and then tell them that you did it, because you don't want to take people by surprise.
Very interesting. John, if we have to basically summarize this, the way in which I see it, first of all, it's all inbuilt into the fabric, as you said, which essentially means that you're not taking the data out of our system. So that's also really important for our customer. The second thing is it's unified policy. So you define one policy and you extend it across multiple workloads. So you're not redefining it again and again. So that's also something that you're looking into, I believe, that's going to be helpful. So given all these things, if I have to ask you, what are the top 3 things which really excited you with the compliance suite over the last couple of years? That's the first part of the question. And then what are the top 3 things that you're looking forward to, which you still do not have today? Probably these are the things that you would really love to have as a customer managing 200,000 users.
You hit on the biggest one, right? And that is that policy coherence. I do think we have work to do here, but being able to create one policy and spread it across all the different workloads without having to rewrite them is a godsend to us, right? If you think about, I go back in time and the third-party products that we had to recreate those particular policies that we were looking for, whether it's, customer data or employee data. We'd have to write it in one system, and they had certain limitations of like regex patterns and all that. And then you have to go to another one, and they had different ones. And you end up having to be an expert in two different policy creation stuff, which got really convoluted. You might miss something. You might forget to put a policy in a third product someplace. So having that ability to just have that one ring to rule them all is great, right? That's probably one of the big things for us. The ability just to be able to see what was going on in the tenancy was another big thing. Before we had DLP and O365, we were kind of at a loss, and we're trying to use third-party products to search for that stuff. And then the other one is really the policy tips. Again, I think we have a lot more room to grow in the usability aspect of it at the end user perspective, that is. Because those guys are the frontline defense for information protection. That's those people, the SMEs that are working on that content, right? So, but I like that ability to do that. So those are really the top three things. The other ones, the ones that I'm looking forward to, is the endpoint. Being able to extend the policy down to the endpoint, that's yet another one. The beauty of that one is I don't have to worry about backwards compatibility, with a third-party product that has, an app that you got to install at the endpoint. You have to really be careful of the backwards compatibility of the operating system or whatnot. And here at Microsoft, everybody knows everybody's working on the latest and greatest version of Windows, right? But DLP will still continue to work, and I don't have to deploy all these little commandlets around and servlets around to get DLP to work at the endpoint. That is awesome, right? That saves so much time in testing and being able to deploy to different parts of the organization, whereas before we would have to really think about, do we deploy this little thing on a Windows developer's workstation? Because is it going to work? Is it going to break? What's going to happen? So that's a huge win for us.
That's awesome, John. Has your life changed a bit from pre-COVID days to now at all with respect to managing these 200,000 users?
Yes, I think because we're working remotely now, the way people share things is super important, right? And it starts to concern us. Whereas, before it was everybody's working on the corporate network and that they're coming in to work and that. And now it's not that. So we get a little bit more nervous now about what's happening at the endpoint. How are people actually sharing it? Are they using the right link type in sharing in SharePoint or OneDrive? So those types of things are remote work type of worries kind of got heightened a little bit more now that we're working from home. But again, it's really nowadays it's like working from the office, right? I think the one things that worry me about is, do people understand that, how are they, the way people are sharing it? Are they attaching a file to an email rather than sending a link that, kind of protects it a little bit more? So we're trying to focus more on, how are people using Teams, and are they sharing sensitive data that way? And can we help protect that over there and things like that? So I think our just the worries have gone up a little bit. Whether or not we should have had those same worries when we're working at the office, I'm not sure about, but that it certainly has increased my worry sometime.
So the way in which I read about it, since Teams usage in Microsoft has also gone up with, all these restrictions. Spoken a lot in detail about DLP. I think DLP for Teams is probably the next big thing that you're thinking about in MSIT.
Yeah. Yes, it is. In ensuring that we still have, we're not breaking productivity. But yeah, that's both the endpoint and then Teams, DLP. Power Automate is another one that we're really concentrating on as well. There is one more thing I really am looking forward to, and that is our remediation platform. I think customers would love that. because you could, being able to do email campaigns where it's kind of like 3 strikes and you're out, and, IT will take over that file if you don't remediate it and properly label it. Those types of things. And then trainable classifiers is another one. And that's where that user notices and the policy tips come in. Because if you think about if that system and their whole remediation thing you're basically crowdsourcing false positive reporting and true positives in that particular system. And then that whole remediation platform comes in perfectly for that, right? So you can do your reporting, you can do your email campaigns, things like that.
I think that's what I have for you today, John. Thanks a lot for taking time out today to talk to us in this episode of Voices of Data Protection.
Thanks, Bobby. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Voices of Data Protection. To learn more about this episode, visit our show page for links and resources about all that we discussed at aka.ms/Voices of Data Protection. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues and subscribe to the show. In our next episode, I'll be talking with Ravi Kiran Polluri. Keep up with the latest on data protection in compliance by visiting aka.ms/Voices of Data Protection. See you all then.